My name is Danielle Pierce and I'm 25 years old. 3 nights ago someone knocked on my apartment door at 9 p.m. and when I looked through the peephole, I saw two people I hadn't seen in 8 years. My stepmother Patricia, who'd kicked me out at 17 the day of my father's funeral, and my half-sister Marissa, who'd watched her do it without saying a word. Patricia's Chanel suit was wrinkled, her Louis Vuitton bag clutched against her chest like armor. Marissa stood behind her, looking uncomfortable in an expensive Burberry coat, her eyes red from crying. I almost didn't open the door. But curiosity got the better of me. "Danielle," Patricia said the moment the door cracked open, her voice breaking in a way I'd never heard before. "Thank God we found you. We've been looking for months. We need your help desperately. It's life or death. Marissa is dying and you're the only one who can save her." 8 years ago, this woman stood in the doorway of my childhood home and told me I was nothing, that I'd never amount to anything, that I wasn't family and never had been. She threw me out with one garbage bag of belongings while my father was barely cold in the ground. She watched me load my car and told me never to come back. Now she stood in my hallway, mascara running down her face, begging for my help. Before I tell you what they wanted and what I did about it, please take a moment to like and subscribe if you enjoy these stories. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now let me tell you how 8 years of silence led to one impossible request. My father, Michael Pierce, met Patricia when I was 12 years old. My biological mother had died in a car accident when I was 8, and for 4 years it had been just Dad and me against the world. He worked as a corporate attorney at a prestigious firm in Connecticut, made about $300,000 annually, and we lived comfortably in a beautiful 4-bedroom house in Westport. We had routines. Friday movie nights where I got to pick. Sunday pancake breakfasts where Dad would make shapes and I'd guess what they were supposed to be. Bedtime stories even when I got older, because I loved hearing his voice. It was us. A team. Then he met Patricia at a firm networking event. Patricia was a paralegal, 15 years younger than my father, 29 to his 44. She had that calculated beauty where everything from her highlighted hair to her French manicure was designed to attract successful men. She wore designer clothes on a paralegal salary, which should have been a red flag, but Dad was lonely, and she was attentive. She had a 5-year-old daughter, Marissa, from a previous relationship. The father wasn't in the picture, something about him leaving when Marissa was born. Patricia played the struggling single mother role perfectly. "It's so hard raising a daughter alone," she'd tell my father over dinners I was excluded from. "Marissa deserves a father figure, someone stable and successful to look up to." They dated for exactly 6 months before Dad proposed. I remember the dinner where he told me, just the two of us at our favorite Italian restaurant where we'd been going since I was little. "Danny," he said, using his nickname for me, "I know this is fast, and I know you're still processing losing Mom. But Patricia makes me happy in a way I haven't been in years. And Marissa is a sweet little girl who needs stability. I think we can build something good here. A real, blended family." I was 12 years old, still sleeping with my mother's sweater under my pillow, still crying some nights when I thought Dad couldn't hear. But I wanted him to be happy. I wanted him to stop looking so lonely. "Okay, Dad," I said. "If she makes you happy, then, okay." They got married 3 months later in September. Small ceremony, just immediate family and close friends, at a country club Patricia chose that cost $30,000 for 70 guests. Patricia wore a Vera Wang gown that cost $12,000. Marissa wore a flower girl dress that cost $800. I wore a bridesmaid dress from David's Bridal that cost $90 because Patricia said we had to budget somewhere. They honeymooned in Bora Bora for 2 weeks, while I stayed with my aunt. When they came back, Patricia and Marissa moved into our house with 7 suitcases and 15 boxes. That's when everything started changing. Within the first month, Patricia began redecorating. "Michael, this house is lovely, but it's so dated," she said one Saturday morning, walking through rooms with an interior designer she'd hired without consulting Dad. "It looks like it's stuck in 2005. We need to modernize. Make it feel like our family's home, not a museum to the past." My father, still in that honeymoon phase where everything his new wife said sounded reasonable, agreed. $40,000 later, every trace of my mother was gone. The photos of Mom and Dad that had lined the hallway were replaced with modern abstract art Patricia chose. The furniture Mom had carefully selected, pieces she'd saved for and loved, were donated or thrown away. My mother's favorite reading chair, the oversized cream armchair where she'd read to me every night, disappeared one Tuesday while I was at school. "Where's Mom's chair?" I asked Patricia when I got home, standing in the empty corner of the living room where it had always been. "I and donated it," she said, not looking up from her phone as she scrolled through furniture websites. It was old and didn't fit the new aesthetic. "I ordered a new accent chair, mid-century modern. It'll be here next week." "But that was my mom's chair," I said, my voice cracking. I liked sitting in it. It smelled like her perfume. "Danielle, your mother's been gone for 4 years," Patricia said, finally looking at me with those cold blue eyes. "It's time to move forward. Holding on to old furniture isn't healthy. I'm helping this family heal." Dad didn't fight her on any of it. He was so desperate not to be alone anymore, so eager to have someone to share his life with, that he let Patricia transform everything, including family dynamics and priorities. Within 2 months it was clear that Marissa was the favorite child, and I was the one who had to accommodate. Marissa got the bigger bedroom even though I'd been in the house first. "She's younger. She needs more space for all her toys," Patricia explained when I questioned it. My childhood bedroom became Marissa's princess palace while I moved to the smaller guest room. Marissa got new clothes every week, shopping trips with Patricia to Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's where they'd spend thousands. I was told to make do with what I had and shop clearance racks when necessary. "Danielle, you're 12, almost a teenager," Patricia said. When I asked why Marissa got so many new things. "You need to learn financial responsibility and not expect handouts. Marissa is 5. She's in a developmental stage where she needs stimulation and variety. It's different." Marissa got a tutor for everything. Piano lessons at $60 an hour. Art classes. Dance classes. Tennis lessons at the country club. When my grades slipped slightly in 7th grade, going from straight A's to A's and B's during the adjustment period of having a new family, I was lectured about doing better. When Marissa struggled in kindergarten, she got private tutors, educational specialists, and endless patience. "You're naturally smart, Danny," my father would say, parroting whatever Patricia had told him. "You've always been an excellent student. Marissa needs extra help to reach her potential. You understand, right?" I understood that I was being pushed aside. I understood that in our new family structure, I was the responsible, independent daughter who didn't need attention or resources. Marissa was the baby princess who deserved everything. Patricia was the wife who controlled everything. And Dad was the wallet that funded it all without question. By the time I was 14, I'd learned to be invisible. I stopped asking for things because the answer was always no or later, which meant never. I got a part-time job at 15, working at a local coffee shop after school and weekends, saving every dollar in a bank account Patricia didn't know existed. When I was 16, my father started getting sick. Fatigue at first, then stomach pains, then weight loss he couldn't explain. After months of tests, the diagnosis came back. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer. 6 months to live with palliative care, maybe a year with aggressive treatment. I watched my father, the strongest person I knew, deteriorate over the next 10 months. Chemotherapy that made him so weak he could barely walk. Radiation that made him vomit constantly. He kept working almost until the very end because Patricia's spending never stopped, even with medical bills piling up. "Michael, Marissa needs a new laptop for school," Patricia would say while Dad was literally dying in the next room. "Michael, I saw the perfect dining set at Restoration Hardware. We need to update before your partners come for dinner." She spent money like he was healthy, like the medical bills weren't drowning us, like death wasn't coming. I spent every moment I could with Dad. I'd sit by his bed reading to him when he was too tired to talk. I'd make him smoothies when he couldn't eat solid food. I'd hold his hand during the worst nights, when the pain was unbearable. Patricia was rarely there. She was too busy managing Marissa's activities, shopping, having lunch with her friends. "Your father needs rest," she'd say when I asked why she wasn't spending more time with him. Marissa and I being around constantly would be too much stimulation. We're giving him space to heal. He wasn't healing. He was dying. And he was dying with only me there most of the time. Dad died 2 weeks after my 17th birthday in March. The funeral was large, over 200 people, at a venue Patricia selected that cost $25,000. She wore a black Dior dress that cost $8,000, designer sunglasses covering her perfectly made-up face. Marissa wore a black dress from Neiman Marcus that cost $600. I wore a simple black dress I'd bought at Target for $40 because Patricia said there wasn't budget for my funeral clothes, only for you. The family's presentation to my father's colleagues and friends. I sat in the front row at the church, listening to people talk about what a wonderful man my father was, how much he'd loved his family, how dedicated he'd been. Patricia dabbed her eyes with a handkerchief, the perfect grieving widow. Marissa sat quietly, confused at 12 years old about why her stepfather was gone. After the service, after the burial where I stood at the grave until everyone else had left, after we came back to the house for the reception where 100 people picked at catered food and told me how sorry they were, Patricia pulled me into Dad's study. The study that still smelled like his cologne and his leather chair. Marissa followed her mother, standing by the door like a silent observer. Danielle, we need to talk about your future and the practical matters, Patricia said, settling into Dad's chair behind his mahogany desk like she owned it. Which I would learn, she legally did. Your father's will was read this morning by his attorney. I met with him while you were at school yesterday. The house, all assets, his life insurance, retirement accounts, everything passes to me as his surviving spouse. There's an education trust established for Marissa's college. You're mentioned in the will, but not in the way you might expect or hope. What does that mean? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. It means your father left instructions that you're to be supported through high school graduation. After that, you're on your own financially. You'll be 18 next year. You need to start planning for your independence and your future without relying on this family's resources. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Dad told me he had money saved for my college, I said, remembering conversations we'd had, promises he'd made. He told me there was an education fund for me, just like there was for Marissa. There was, Patricia said, examining her fresh manicure, the gel nails that cost $120 every 2 weeks. But your father's medical expenses were extensive. The experimental treatments, the private care, the medications insurance didn't cover. It depleted a significant portion of the estate. After settling outstanding debts, paying off the remaining mortgage, and securing Marissa's educational future, there isn't excess money available for your college fund. But I'm his daughter, I said, my voice breaking. Marissa is my stepdaughter, but I've been raising her for 5 years. She's family in a real way. You're nearly an adult, Danielle. You'll be fine. Plenty of young people put themselves through college. Student loans, scholarships, work-study programs. It builds character. Are you saying I have to leave? I asked, the reality starting to sink in. I'm saying you have until graduation, Patricia said, her voice taking on that cold efficiency. Finish your senior year, turn 18 in March, then you'll need to find your own living situation. It's time for you to launch into independence. Your father, bless him, had a tendency to coddle you. But I'm going to stand on your own 2 feet. Consider it a gift. A gift? I repeated. Independence is a gift, she said. You can stay until graduation in May. That gives you 2 months to plan. Then this house needs to be for Marissa and me. We're moving forward with our lives. We can't do that with you here as a constant reminder of your father's previous life. I'm not a reminder, I said, tears streaming down my face now. I'm his daughter. I'm family. Without him connecting us, you're just his child from his first marriage. Marissa and I are moving forward. We don't need you complicating our grieving process or taking up space we'll need. Marissa stood by the door, 12 years old, watching me cry, saying absolutely nothing. She'd lived in my house for 5 years, eaten meals I'd helped cook, been driven to activities by my father, benefited from my family's money. And she stood there silent while her mother dismantled my life. I walked out of that study and went to my small bedroom. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake trying to figure out where I'd go, how I'd survive. I had maybe $2,000 saved from my coffee shop job. I had a car, a 10-year-old Honda Civic I'd bought myself with saved birthday and Christmas money. I had no family except an aunt in California I barely knew, and cousins I'd met twice. The next morning, I came downstairs to find Patricia already packing boxes in the living room. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice hoarse from crying. "Getting a head start on clearing out your father's belongings," she said, tossing his books into boxes without care. "No point keeping things we don't need. Most of this is going to donation centers. We need space for New things. Can I have some of Dad's things? I asked desperately. Some photos, maybe his watch, some of his books. Things to remember him by. Patricia paused, looked at me with those calculating eyes. The watches are valuable. Rolex, Omega, Tag Heuer. Marissa will inherit those. They'll appreciate in value. The photos that are just you and your father, you can take a few. The family photos with all of us stay here. The books I'm donating. We need shelf space for Marissa's growing collection. Please, I begged, just a few things. Anything that was his. You're being emotional, Patricia said dismissively. I'll let you go through one box. Take what fits. The rest goes. I spent that entire day going through boxes with tears streaming down my face, pulling out photos of Dad and me, of Dad and Mom, trying to save memories before Patricia erased them forever. I found Dad's journal, the one he'd kept during his cancer treatment, tucked in a box of papers Patricia was about to throw away. I took it without asking, hiding it under my jacket. I found Mom's wedding ring, the one Dad had kept in his drawer. I took that too. Over the next 2 weeks, Patricia's coldness escalated into active hostility. Danielle, I need you to start contributing financially if you're staying here, she announced at dinner one night, cutting her salmon with precision. Marissa sat beside her, eating quietly. What do you mean? I asked. You have a job at that coffee shop. You're taking up space in my house, using utilities, eating food. $300 a month seems fair for rent. I make $9 an hour part-time, I said. After taxes that's maybe $600 a month. You want half my income as rent? Then you'll learn to budget, she said, taking a sip of her wine, a bottle that cost $60, or you can leave sooner than May. Your choice. I paid the first month's rent with money from my savings account, $300 that should have gone toward college applications or books or food. The second month, Patricia raised it to $400. Inflation, she explained with a shrug. Cost of living adjustments, it's only fair. I realized she was systematically driving me out. She didn't want to wait until graduation. She wanted me gone immediately but couldn't legally throw out a minor without cause. I lasted 2 more months before everything collapsed. It was late May, 3 weeks before my graduation. I came home from my shift at the coffee shop to find all my belongings packed in black garbage bags in the driveway. 4 bags of everything I owned in the world. Patricia stood in the doorway, arms crossed, wearing yoga pants and a designer top that probably cost $200. Marissa stood behind her, peeking out. Curious. What is this? I asked, my heart pounding. You're leaving, Patricia said simply. Today. Now. I'm 17, I said. I don't graduate for 3 weeks. We had an agreement. You said I could stay until graduation. That agreement is void, she said coldly. You've been increasingly difficult to live with. Sulking, making Marissa uncomfortable with your constant grief and negativity, creating a toxic environment in my home. I gave you chances. I tried to help you transition to adulthood. But you've been stubborn and ungrateful. I need you to leave. Today. Patricia, please, I begged, my voice breaking. Just 3 more weeks. Let me graduate. I'll leave the day after, I promise. I just need to finish high school. And then. No, she said. I've made arrangements. There's a youth shelter downtown that takes teens in crisis situations. I've already called them. They have a bed available. You can go there. A homeless shelter? I asked, unable to believe what I was hearing. You're sending me to a homeless shelter? I'm providing you with a resource, she corrected. Many teenagers utilize shelter services during transitional periods. You'll be fine. You're resilient. Your father always said you were strong. My father would never want this, I said, tears streaming down my face now. Your father's dead, Patricia said, her voice like ice. And this is my house now. My family. You were never really part of it. You were his obligation from his first marriage. Now that obligation is over. I looked at Marissa, standing there in her designer clothes, the 12-year-old girl who'd lived in my house for 5 years. Marissa, I said desperately, tell your mom this is wrong. Please. We're sisters. Half-sisters, Marissa said quietly, her first words of the whole conversation. And this is Mom's house now. Mom's decision. Patricia smiled at her daughter, proud. You have 1 hour, she told me. Load your things and leave. If you're not gone, I'm calling the police and reporting you for trespassing and threatening behavior. I'll tell them you've been aggressive and I fear for Marissa's safety. Do you want that on your record? With shaking hands, I loaded 4 garbage bags into my Honda Civic. Everything I owned in the world. Clothes, photos, a few books, my laptop, some toiletries. Patricia watched from the doorway like a guard ensuring I left. Marissa stood beside her, blank-faced. As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror and saw them standing there. Patricia had her arm around Marissa, and they were already turning to go back inside, closing the door on me forever. That night I slept in my car in a supermarket parking lot. I was 17 years old, 3 weeks from high school graduation, with 4 garbage bags of belongings and $2,000 in my bank account. Patricia had taken everything else. The house, my father's belongings, any security I'd ever had. I was homeless because my stepmother decided I wasn't worth keeping around anymore. If you've ever been abandoned by family when you needed them most, if you've ever felt like you didn't matter to people who should have protected you, leave a comment below. And subscribe if you want to hear how I survived and what happened when they came back asking for help. Because the next 3 years were the hardest of my life, but they made me who I am today. The first week I lived in my car, parked in different locations each night to avoid suspicion. Walmart parking lots, rest stops, quiet residential streets. I'd wake up at 5 a.m., drive to the gym I'd gotten a membership to specifically for showers, clean up, then go to school. I was a senior, 3 weeks from graduation, and I was determined to finish. My teachers noticed something was wrong. "Danielle, are you okay?" My English teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, asked one day after class. "You look exhausted. Is everything all right at home?" "I'm fine," I lied, because what was I supposed to say? That I was homeless? That my stepmother had thrown me out? I went to school every day. I worked my shifts at the coffee shop. I slept in my car. I ate cheap food from convenience stores, spending maybe $10 a day on meals. I did my homework in the public library. I graduated in early June with my class, walking across the stage to get my diploma, while Patricia and Marissa didn't attend because they weren't invited, and I didn't tell them when it was. That summer, I worked 2 jobs. The coffee shop during the day, a gas station at night. I saved every dollar. By August, I had enough for first and last month's rent on a tiny studio apartment in a rough neighborhood. $350 a month for 200 square feet, a hot plate, a shared bathroom down the hall. But it was mine. I furnished it with things from thrift stores and curbsides. A mattress I found on Craigslist for $50. A folding table. 2 plastic chairs. Dishes from the dollar store. I was 18, working 60 hours a week, barely surviving. But I was surviving. That fall, I tried to enroll in community college. But I didn't qualify for financial aid because my father's estate, which Patricia controlled, showed assets. On paper, I came from a wealthy family. In reality, I was living in poverty. I couldn't prove I'd been cut off without legal documentation I didn't have. "You need your parents' financial information for the FAFSA," the financial aid officer explained. "Your father passed away, but your stepmother as his widow is considered your parent for aid purposes unless you're legally emancipated." She kicked me out, I explained. "I don't have contact with her. I can't get her financial information." "Then you'll need to file for a dependency override, which requires extensive documentation and proof of abandonment." I tried. I gathered what evidence I had. But it wasn't enough without Patricia's cooperation, which she'd never give. So I was stuck. Too connected on paper to get aid, too poor to pay for school myself. I kept working. I added a 3rd job on weekends, babysitting for families in better neighborhoods. I saved every dollar I could. By the time I was 19, I'd saved $8,000. I used it to enroll in online courses through a cheaper university, paying semester by semester, taking one or 2 classes at a time while working full-time. It took me 6 years instead of 4, but I got my bachelor's degree in business administration. I worked my way up at the coffee shop, becoming assistant manager, then manager. At 23, I used my degree and experience to get a better job, administrative coordinator at a mid-sized company making $45,000 a year. It felt like wealth after years of poverty. At 24, I got promoted to operations manager, $58,000 a year. I moved to a better apartment, a real 1-bedroom with my own bathroom and a kitchen. I bought furniture that wasn't from the curb. I started building a life. But I never forgot. I never forgot Patricia's cold eyes When she threw me out. Never forgot Marissa standing silently while I begged. Never forgot loading garbage bags into my car while they watched. Never forgot sleeping in parking lots and being hungry and scared and utterly alone at 17. I never tried to contact them. They'd made it clear I wasn't family. But apparently they hadn't forgotten about me either. Because 3 nights ago, 8 years after she threw me out, Patricia knocked on my apartment door. I opened it to find her looking older, more worn. The Chanel suit was wrinkled. Her makeup couldn't hide the exhaustion. Marissa stood behind her, 20 years old now, beautiful but pale, dark. Circles under her eyes. "Danielle," Patricia said, her voice cracking. "Thank God. We've been trying to find you for months. We need your help. It's Marissa. She's sick. Very sick. What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice cold. "Can we come in?" Patricia asked. "Please, we need to talk. It's life or death." I should have slammed the door. But curiosity made me step aside. They came into my modest apartment, Patricia's eyes scanning the space, probably judging. "What do you want?" I asked again. Marissa spoke first, her voice weak. "I have acute lymphoblastic leukemia. I was diagnosed 6 months ago. I've been through chemotherapy, radiation, everything. Nothing's working. I need a bone marrow transplant. But I'm a difficult match." "I'm sorry you're sick," I said. "But why are you here?" "Because you're family," Patricia said. "You're Marissa's half-sister. There's a chance you could be a match. We had you tested years ago. Your father kept medical records. The doctors say there's a 40% chance siblings match. You're her best hope." "You want me to give Marissa bone marrow?" I asked slowly. "Yes," Patricia said desperately. "Please, Danielle. I know I was terrible to you. I know I failed you after your father died. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But Marissa is dying. She's my daughter. She's 20 years old. Please don't let my mistakes cost her life." I looked at Marissa, sitting on my couch, looking fragile and scared. Then I looked at Patricia, the woman who'd thrown me out at 17. "You want my help now," I said quietly. "After 8 years of silence. After kicking me out with garbage bags. After taking everything my father left me. After sending me to live in my car. Now you want me to save your daughter?" "Yes," Patricia said. "I'm begging you. I'll do anything. Pay you, whatever you want. Just, please get tested. Please help her if you're a match." I walked to my desk, opened a drawer, pulled out a folder. Inside was every document from my father's estate that I'd requested through public records over the years. The will. The asset distribution. The education trust that had existed for me before Patricia drained it for her own use. "Do you know what I found?" I asked, holding up the papers. When I finally got copies of Dad's will and estate documents, I found that he'd set up an education trust for me. $50,000 specifically for my college. Separate from the trust for Marissa. Do you know what happened to that money? Patricia's face went pale. "That money was absorbed into estate expenses," she said weakly. "Your father had significant debts. That money was in a separate trust with specific instructions it be used only for my education," I said. "But you were executor. You had control. And you took it. Used my college fund to maintain your lifestyle. To pay for Marissa's private school. To keep shopping and spending. You stole $50,000 that my father explicitly left for me. I made difficult financial decisions during a difficult time," Patricia said. "The estate was complicated. You stole from me," I said simply. "You took the house, fine, that was legally yours. But you stole my education fund. You threw me out knowing I had nothing. You let me be homeless. And now you come here asking me to give part of my body to save your daughter?" "She's your sister," Patricia said desperately. "Half-sister," I corrected, using Marissa's words from 8 years ago. "And you're not my mother. You're the woman who destroyed my life." Marissa spoke up, tears streaming down her face. "Danielle, please. I'm sorry for what happened. I was 12. I didn't understand. I know Mom was wrong. But please don't let me die because of her mistakes." I looked at this 20-year-old girl, sick and scared, and I felt something. Not quite forgiveness, but not quite hatred either. "I'll get tested," I said finally. Patricia's face flooded with relief. "But not for you," I told her. "Not because you begged or because you think I owe you family loyalty. I'll get tested because Marissa is 20, and she didn't ask to have a mother who steals from orphan teenagers. If I'm a match, I'll donate. For her. Not for you. Thank you, Patricia sobbed. Thank you so much. Whatever you want, name it. Money, I'll repay the education fund, anything. I don't want your money, I said. I want you to know that I survived despite you. That I built a life out of nothing while you lived in the house my father built. I want you to know that what you did to me was unforgivable. But I won't let a 20-year-old die because her mother is a monster. I got tested the next day. 10 days later, the results came back. I was a perfect match. 10 out of 10 markers. Marissa's best chance at survival was me. The woman Patricia had thrown away like garbage. The transplant was scheduled for 3 weeks later. It's a painful procedure, harvesting bone marrow from the hip bone. I'd be under anesthesia, but recovery would be weeks of pain. I did it anyway. The day of the procedure, Patricia tried to talk to me in the pre-op room. Daniela, I want you to know how sorry I am. For everything. I was jealous of you. Of how much your father loved you. Of the bond you had. I felt threatened. So I took it out on you after he died. It was cruel and wrong. If I could go back and change it, I would. You can't go back, I said. You can only live with what you did. I know, she said. But I hope someday you can forgive me. I can accept what happened, I said. I can move forward. But forgive. That's not something you get to ask for. That's something I give if and when I'm ready. And I'm not ready. The transplant went well. My bone marrow was extracted and transplanted into Marissa. The doctors said it was textbook perfect. Marissa's body accepted it. Over the next months, she recovered. The leukemia went into remission. She had a future again. Patricia called me monthly with updates I didn't ask for. Marissa's doing well. She's back at school. She asks about you constantly. She wants to see you, thank you properly. I didn't respond. 6 months after the transplant, Marissa showed up at my apartment alone. Can I come in? She asked. I let her in. She looked healthier, color in her cheeks, life in her eyes. I wanted to thank you, she said. For saving my life. I know you didn't have to, after everything Mom did to you, but you did it anyway. I did it because you were sick, I said. Not because I forgave your mother or because we're family now. I know, she said. But I wanted you to know something. I found documents. Mom had kept them in storage. Your father's original will. The trust documents. I saw what she did. How she took your money. How she lied to you. I confronted her about it. What did she say? She admitted it, Marissa said. She cried and said she was ashamed. She said she was going to make it right. I'm making sure she does. 2 weeks later, I received a cashier's check in the mail. $50,000. The education fund Patricia had stolen. Plus 8 years of interest at 6%, bringing it to $79,000. And a letter from Patricia. Danielle, I know money doesn't fix what I did. But this is yours. Your father wanted you to have it. I stole it, and I'm returning it with interest. I'm also setting up a trust. In your name with an additional $50,000 as compensation for the pain I caused. I can't undo the past. But I can try to make some small part of it right. I'm sorry. I will be sorry every day for the rest of my life. Patricia. I deposited the check. I used some to pay off my student loans from the online classes I'd taken. I invested the rest. I didn't forgive Patricia. But I accepted that she was trying, in her inadequate way, to make amends. Marissa and I started talking occasionally. Coffee every few months. She was building her own life, separate from her mother's influence. She'd learned, through her illness, and through learning the truth about what happened to me, that Patricia's love was conditional and cruel. She was working through that in therapy. Last month, Marissa invited me to her college graduation. She'd taken time off during treatment but had gone back. Patricia was there, sitting in the crowd, looking older and sadder. She saw me, gave a small nod, but didn't approach. After the ceremony, Marissa hugged me. Thank you for being here, she said. You're the only family I want. I'm 25 now. I have a good job, a promotion to director level coming next month. I have a small apartment that's entirely mine. I have friends, a life, a future I built from absolutely nothing. I survived being thrown out at 17. I survived homelessness, poverty, and complete abandonment. I survived, and I thrived, despite every obstacle Patricia put in my path. Do I forgive her? No. Forgiveness isn't required. I've moved forward without it. But I don't hate her anymore either. Hate takes energy I'd rather spend on building my life. Patricia lives with what she did. She sees Marissa sometimes, but their relationship is strained. Marissa knows the truth about who her mother really is. She's building a life separate from that toxicity. She's becoming the person she might have been if Patricia had been a better parent. And me? I'm just grateful I survived. Grateful I saved Marissa despite what her mother did. Grateful I got my father's money back, even 8 years late. Grateful I learned at 17 that I could survive anything. Family isn't who shares your blood. Family is who shows up when you need them, who protects you, who values you. Patricia was never my family, no matter how many years we lived under the same roof. But I was family to Marissa when she needed me most, even after years of nothing. That's the difference between us. She saved herself. I saved someone who didn't deserve it but needed it anyway. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been abandoned by people who should have protected you, if you've ever had to build a life from nothing because family failed you, leave a comment. Subscribe if you believe in surviving despite the odds, in being better than the people who hurt you, in moving forward even when forgiveness feels impossible. Share this with someone who needs to hear that you can lose everything at 17 and still build something beautiful by 25. Remember, you're stronger than you know. You can survive things you never thought you could. And the people who threw you away will someday realize what they lost. You don't need to forgive them. You just need to live well despite them. That's the best revenge there is.